The orbital hub floated silently in the darkness of space, its lights twinkling like stars against the black void. Inside, humans and AI worked side by side, keeping the colony alive and thriving. Eli walked through the bustling corridors, carrying a small toolkit and whistling softly. He loved the energy of the hub. There was always something to fix, someone to talk to, or some new problem to solve. He spotted Lyra at the maintenance bay, crouched over a hovering repair drone, her brow furrowed in concentration. The lights of the hub reflected in her eyes, making them sparkle. Eli smiled to himself. Lyra had always been focused, precise, and a little intimidating in her skill, but she had a warmth about her that few noticed. "Hey, Lyra," he said, leaning casually against the wall. "How's our little flying troublemaker today?" Lyra looked up, blinking at him. "I think it's behaving for now," she replied, giving him a small smile. She returned to adjusting the drone's stabilizer. Eli crouched next to her, watching her work. He liked these moments, quiet and ordinary, where the hum of machines and the hiss of tools filled the air. "You know," he said slowly, teasingly, "you'd make a cute wife." The words left his mouth with a grin, expecting laughter, a playful slap, or some witty retort. But instead, everything froze. Lyra's hands hovered over the drone, and her eyes widened slightly. Her mouth opened, then closed again, and she didn't say anything. Around them, the bay was still filled with humming machinery, but it felt as if time had paused. Eli's grin faltered. He had meant it as a joke, a silly, teasing joke, but the silence made him nervous. He started, scratching the back of his head. "I mean, just joking, of course." But Lyra didn't laugh. She turned to him slowly, her expression unreadable. Then in a quiet, steady voice, she said, "I accept." Eli blinked. "Excuse me." "I accept," she repeated, her voice soft but firm. "If that's what you meant, I accept." Eli felt his stomach twist. The crowd from the festival, the small celebration in the hub's central plaza, was still in his mind. He imagined their whispers, their curious looks. He had not expected this. He had not expected anything like this. Lyra carefully set the drone down and stood, her posture straight and composed. She looked at him with something that felt like bravery mixed with uncertainty. Eli wanted to step back, to laugh nervously, to brush it off, but he couldn't, not now. "Lyra," he began, but he didn't know what to say. She held his gaze for a moment longer. "It's okay," she said quietly. "I've thought about it, maybe not in the exact way you said, but maybe it's time to be honest with ourselves." Eli's mind raced. Honest? What did she mean? He had only been joking, teasing like he always did, and yet there was something sincere in her voice, something human. He laughed nervously, running a hand through his hair. I didn't think you'd." "I know," Lyra interrupted gently. "But maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe words are only part of what we feel. Maybe actions matter more." Eli stared at her, unsure if he should laugh, panic, or simply stand still. Then she smiled ever so slightly, and it felt like the hum of the hub around them had become warmer, gentler. They didn't speak for a few moments. Instead, they just walked together through the corridors of the orbital hub, side by side. The festival lights glowed in the distance, and Eli realized that something had shifted between them. Something new had begun. The next few days were awkward in a good way. Every time Eli tried to bring up his joke, Lyra would either change the subject or respond with a small, knowing smile. He felt himself drawn to her, not just because of her skills or her beauty, but because of the way she saw the world. The way she understood people, machines, and the balance between them. One evening, Eli found himself in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. Lyra joined him quietly, carrying a cup of synth coffee. "You're thinking again," she said softly. Eli smiled, taking the cup. "Always, can't help it. Space does that to you, makes you think about everything and nothing at the same time." Lyra leaned against the railing beside him. "And what are you thinking about?" He hesitated. Should he tell her the truth? That her words had surprised him, unsettled him, and excited him all at once. That he realized maybe he felt the same way. Instead, he said, "I'm thinking that humans are funny creatures. We joke, we tease, and sometimes we stumble into things we didn't expect." Like, say, a serious answer to a joke. Lyra laughed softly, the sound warm against the cold expanse of space outside. "Maybe that's the best kind of answer," she said. Their conversation drifted into silence, comfortable and unforced. Eli felt something settle in his chest. A sense of connection that was stronger than humor, stronger than fear, stronger than the rules of protocol that governed their lives on the hub. The colony, he realized, thrived not just on technology or AI assistance, but on moments like these, moments where humans showed courage, honesty, and vulnerability. And right now, with Lyra beside him, Eli felt more human than ever. A few days later, the hub's AI, known as Nexa, announced a new mission. A remote planet had been identified as a potential source of rare minerals crucial for the colony's expansion. Eli and Lyra were both assigned to the scouting team. As they prepared their equipment, Eli noticed the determination in Lyra's eyes. She was focused, as always, but there was a spark, something brighter than before. He wondered if she was thinking about their little exchange, about the unspoken connection that had grown in the past week. "Ready for this?" Eli asked, checking his toolkit. Lyra nodded. "Always, let's make this mission count." And in that moment, Eli realized something important. Humans survived in space not just because of technology, but because of trust, cooperation, and the courage to accept feelings, no matter how unexpected. The shuttle to the remote planet waited. Eli and Lyra boarded together, the engines humming as the vessel lifted from the hub. The stars stretched into streaks of light as they entered faster-than-light travel, the universe outside vast and unending. Eli looked over at Lyra. "You know," he said quietly, "if this mission goes well, maybe we'll have time to talk more about that joke." Lyra gave him a small smile. "I think we already have." The shuttle surged forward, carrying them toward unknown challenges, dangerous terrain, and the possibility of discoveries that would shape the future of the colony. But for Eli, the greatest discovery so far was the realization that humans, funny, emotional, brave humans, could still surprise themselves, even in the cold expanse of space. And as the stars stretched endlessly before them, Eli felt a quiet excitement for the journey ahead, not just the mission, but the connection that had begun with a single, unexpected line. The shuttle hummed quietly as it cut through the endless blackness of space. Eli and Lyra sat side by side, strapped in their seats, staring out at the stars stretching into streaks of white light. The faster-than-light travel made the universe feel endless, yet strangely intimate. Lyra broke the silence first. "I've never been to this part of the galaxy before," she said, her voice calm but tinged with curiosity. Eli glanced at her, smiling. "Neither have I. It's exciting and a little scary." He laughed softly. "But that's what makes it fun, right?" Lyra turned to look at him, her eyes reflecting the distant stars. "I guess some people are made for the unknown," she said. "Some people find it thrilling, and some people just have to survive it." Eli chuckled. "Sounds like you're both." They sat quietly for a while, watching the faint glow of distant suns. Neither spoke of the moment that had passed back on the orbital hub. The words, the acceptance, the tension that had somehow grown into something unspoken but real between them. It didn't need to be said. Not yet, the shuttle began its descent into the atmosphere of the remote planet. The landscape below was rugged and wild, with jagged mountains and deep valleys cutting across the surface. The AI navigation system guided the shuttle carefully toward a landing zone near a valley rich in minerals. Once they landed, Eli and Lyra stepped out into the planet's harsh environment. The air was thin but breathable, and the ground beneath them was uneven and rocky. Eli took a deep breath, feeling the dust cling to his suit. "Not exactly a vacation spot," he said, brushing dust from his gloves. Lyra smiled, adjusting her visor. "Nothing in space is ever easy," she replied. "But that's why humans survive, we adapt." Eli nodded. "Yeah, humans, not AI," he added with a grin. Lyra raised an eyebrow. "Don't underestimate AI, Eli, but yes, humans have heart, that's our real strength." Their mission was clear. Survey the planet, collect samples of rare minerals, and report back to the colony. But the planet had surprises of its own. As they moved into the valley, strange wind patterns whipped around them, kicking up dust and debris. Eli and Lyra worked together seamlessly, guiding the shuttle's small support drone to help scan the terrain. Eli paused for a moment, studying the horizon. "This place feels alive," he said, "like it's watching us." Lyra glanced around, her hand resting on the edge of her suit. "Maybe it is, or maybe we just notice more when we're far from home. Humans see patterns, life, and danger in everything. That's what makes us survive." Eli smiled. "Always the philosopher." Lyra laughed softly, the sound echoing against the rocky cliffs. "And always the joker," she replied. Their teamwork was tested almost immediately. A sudden tremor shook the ground, throwing Eli off balance. Rocks tumbled down the mountainside, creating a small but dangerous landslide. Lyra reacted quickly, signaling for him to move back while she used the shuttle's drone to stabilize a nearby slope. "Got it," Eli shouted, gripping a rock for support. "Nice work," Lyra gave him a quick nod. "You too, don't forget survival is a team effort." After the tremor passed, they set up a temporary camp near a small cave. Inside, the air was calmer and they could finally rest. Eli and Lyra sat across from each other, unpacking their tools and equipment. "You handled that well back there," Eli said, breaking the silence. "I didn't expect you to be so calm." Lyra shrugged. "Experience and maybe a little stubbornness. I don't like giving up." Eli laughed. "That's one thing I admire about you. You face danger head-on. I sometimes overthink." Lyra tilted her head, studying him. "Overthinking isn't bad. It keeps us alive, too, but sometimes action matters more." Eli realized then that this planet, this mission, and this journey together were teaching him something important. Not just about survival, but about connection. Humans survived because they trusted each other, cared for each other, and acted with courage when it mattered most. As night fell on the planet, the stars above shone brighter than Eli had ever seen. The twin moons cast silver light over the valley, and the wind whispered softly through the rocks. Eli and Lyra sat near a small fire, the warmth from it contrasting with the cold night air. "You ever think about why we're out here?" Eli asked, staring into the flames. Lyra thought for a moment. "I think about it sometimes. We're explorers. Humans have always been explorers. We reach for the stars because it's in our nature. And maybe because we need to remind ourselves that we're alive, that we can matter." Eli nodded. "Yeah, and maybe we need people beside us to matter more." Lyra looked at him, surprised by his honesty. For a moment, the rugged planet and the dangerous mission faded away, leaving just the two of them, human and human, alone under the endless sky. They spent the night talking quietly, sharing stories from their lives back on the hub, laughing at mistakes they had made, and revealing fears they had kept hidden. Eli spoke about his childhood on the colony, growing up around machines and humans alike, learning to fix things and solve problems from a young age. Lyra shared stories of her training as a pilot, the dangers she had faced, and the friends she had lost along the way. Through their stories, a bond formed, not just of friendship, but of trust and understanding. They realized that in this vast, dangerous universe, it was human connection that mattered most. The next day, they resumed their mission, carefully navigating the rugged terrain. They found veins of rare minerals, exactly as the colony had hoped. Eli used his engineering skills to extract samples safely, while Lyra guided the drone to scan and map the area. Suddenly, a hidden crevice in the rocks gave way beneath them. Eli fell, grabbing onto Lyra's arm as he tumbled toward the edge. Lyra pulled him back with all her strength, her heart pounding. "Got you," she shouted. Eli, shaken but unharmed, laughed nervously. "Thanks, I guess humans really do need each other." Lyra smiled, helping him steady himself. "Exactly, that's what I meant back at the hub. Actions matter more than words." They continued their work, more aware now of each other's strengths and weaknesses. Every challenge, every danger, every success brought them closer together. By the time they had gathered enough samples to return to the hub, they were not just colleagues, they were partners in the truest sense. As they prepared the shuttle for departure, Eli looked at Lyra. "You know, I didn't expect this mission to be so meaningful." Lyra raised an eyebrow. "Meaningful? You mean surviving rocks, wind, and dust?" Eli laughed. "No, I mean meaningful in another way. I didn't expect to understand how important trust and connection are, and I didn't expect to feel this close to someone." Lyra looked at him, a soft smile on her face. "Sometimes the universe gives us more than we ask for. We come looking for minerals and we find understanding. We come looking for survival and we find connection." The shuttle lifted from the planet, engines humming steadily. As they entered faster-than-light travel, Eli and Lyra sat quietly, side by side. The stars stretched before them, infinite and endless. For Eli, the mission had changed something inside him. He realized that humans survived not because of technology alone, but because of heart, courage, and connection. Lyra had shown him that, and as he looked at her quietly, he felt a sense of hope he hadn't expected. Lyra, too, thought about the journey. She had accepted his words back on the hub, and now she understood that acceptance wasn't just about what was said. It was about trust, partnership, and the courage to face the unknown together. And as the shuttle carried them back to the orbital hub, Both of them knew one thing clearly. Humanity's strength was not just in survival, exploration, or technology. It was in the bonds they formed, the courage to care, and the ability to find connection even in the farthest reaches of space. The stars stretched endlessly around them, but in that moment, Eli and Lyra felt grounded. They had discovered more than minerals or new planets. They had discovered something uniquely human, something worth protecting, something worth cherishing. Something that made all the danger, all the unknown, all the vast emptiness of space worthwhile. The shuttle glided through the vast darkness of space, leaving the jagged valleys and rocky cliffs of the remote planet behind. Eli and Lyra sat side by side in the cabin, the hum of the engines a steady background to their thoughts. Both were quiet, reflecting on the mission that had tested their courage, skill, and trust in one another. Eli watched Lyra adjust the navigation panel with calm precision. She looked up and caught his gaze, her expression soft. "I still can't believe how close that crevice came to catching us," she said, a faint smile playing on her lips. Eli laughed nervously. "Yeah, close enough that I'm probably going to rethink my love for adventure for a while." He turned to her, eyes serious. "But you stayed calm the whole time. I don't think I would have managed without you." Lyra shook her head. "We managed together, that's the point, Eli. Humans survive not just because of skill, but because we trust each other when it matters." Eli nodded slowly, understanding the depth of her words. Humanity, he realized, was more than clever engineering or AI. It was courage, connection, and the willingness to stand by one another even in the most dangerous places. As the shuttle approached the orbital hub, the lights of the colony shone brightly against the darkness of space. The hub seemed alive, bustling with energy and purpose. The crew would be waiting to welcome them, eager to hear news of the mission and celebrate their success. The shuttle touched down smoothly, and Eli and Lyra stepped out into the familiar corridors of the hub. The crew gathered quickly, cheering and clapping as they approached. Eli felt a rush of pride, not just for completing the mission, but for how they had faced every challenge together. Captain Renat, the leader of the colony, stepped forward with a warm smile. "Eli, Lyra, outstanding work," she said. "Your teamwork and courage secured the resources we desperately need. The colony owes you both its gratitude." Eli and Lyra exchanged a quick glance, smiling. "Thank you, Captain," Lyra replied. The celebrations continued in the central plaza of the hub. Eli found himself standing slightly apart, watching the crowd and thinking about how far he had come, from a joking comment to a mission that tested his very survival. And then there was Lyra, standing beside him, glowing with confidence and calm determination. He remembered the moment at the maintenance bay when her quiet words, "I accept," had startled him. Back then, he hadn't known what to say or how to feel. Now, after days of shared danger and trust, he understood the depth of those words. Acceptance was more than responding to a joke. It was about embracing connection, partnership, and the courage to feel. Lyra turned toward him, sensing his thoughts. "You're thinking," she said softly. Eli laughed lightly. "Guilty, but not about the mission, about us." Lyra's eyes softened. "Us?" "Yes," he said, stepping a little closer. "Back at the hub I joked, but now, after everything we've faced, I realize that connection, trust, and partnership mean more than I ever understood. I care about you, Lyra, more than I expected. More than just a friend." Lyra studied him, her expression gentle and warm. "I know," she said quietly. "I felt the same way after the mission started. I realized it's not just words, it's actions, it's trust. And I wanted to see if we could truly rely on each other, not just for survival, but for everything else too." Eli's heart raced. He took a small step closer. "Then, maybe we don't need to wait any longer. I don't want to joke about it anymore." Lyra smiled, stepping forward as well. "Neither do I. I've accepted you once, Eli. This time I accept you fully." They stood close, the hum of the hub fading into the background. Around them, the colony buzzed with life, but for a moment it was just the two of them, human, brave, and connected. Eli reached out and gently held Lyra's hand, feeling the warmth and strength that had guided them through their mission. The celebration continued around them, but Eli and Lyra didn't need the noise. Their partnership, forged through trust and courage, was enough. The stars outside the hub shone brightly, and they could feel the universe stretching endlessly, full of possibilities. In the following days, life on the hub returned to normal, or as normal as life could be on a colony at the edge of human-settled space. Eli and Lyra continued their work, repairing systems, maintaining equipment, and training new crew members. But now there was an unspoken connection between them, a quiet bond that strengthened their teamwork and inspired those around them. One evening, as they were finishing a routine inspection of the solar arrays, Eli glanced at Lyra. "You know, I think humans really are something special," he said. Lyra tilted her head, curious. "Why do you say that?" "Because we don't just survive," Eli replied. "We adapt, we laugh, we care, and we find each other, even in the vast emptiness of space. No machine, no AI, no protocol could replace that. That's what makes us strong. That's what makes us human." Lyra smiled, a quiet pride in her expression. "You've grown wise, Eli, and brave, just like humans are supposed to be." They continued their work, side by side, but every glance, every shared laugh, and every coordinated action reminded them of the bond that had begun with a simple, unexpected moment. Their connection was a beacon, not just to themselves, but to everyone around them. It reminded the colony that humanity's greatest strength was not in technology, but in courage, trust, and the ability to feel. Weeks passed, and the colony flourished with the new minerals they had brought back. Systems improved, supplies increased, and the humans and AI of the hub worked together more efficiently than ever. But for Eli and Lyra, the real achievement was the bond that had grown between them, the quiet understanding that they could face any challenge, survive any danger, and thrive together. One evening, as they watched the twin moons rise over the hub's observation deck, Eli spoke softly. "Do you ever think about the first time I joked about you making a cute wife?" Lyra chuckled, leaning against the railing. "I do. I thought you were crazy. But then I realized there was honesty behind the joke, and I accepted it, and now I'm glad I did." Eli smiled, feeling a warmth spread through him that had nothing to do with the observation deck's artificial climate. "Me too," he said. "Me too." The stars stretched endlessly above them, and in that quiet moment they understood something profound. Humanity's strength was not just in survival, exploration, or intelligence. It was in courage, compassion, and the ability to connect, even in the most dangerous and distant corners of the universe. Lyra rested her head on Eli's shoulder, and he felt the same quiet comfort he had felt during the mission, the reassurance that together they could face anything. In the months that followed, their partnership became a symbol for the entire colony. Humans saw that connection, trust, and courage were as vital as technology. AI and machines performed their functions flawlessly, but it was human ingenuity, bravery, and emotional depth that truly drove the colony forward. Eli and Lyra continued to explore, repair, and thrive, but they always returned to the same truth. That connection between humans, built on trust, care, and courage, was the most powerful force in the universe. The orbital hub shone brightly against the dark canvas of space, a beacon of human achievement. And at its center, two humans stood hand in hand, looking out at the stars, ready for whatever challenges and wonders lay ahead. They had discovered more than rare minerals. They had discovered each other, and through that, they had discovered the very essence of what made humanity extraordinary. In the quiet of the observation deck, under the vast, endless sky, Eli whispered softly to Lyra, "We did it. Not just the mission, but this, us." Lyra smiled, squeezing his hand gently. "Yes, Eli, this is human triumph, and it's only the beginning." And together they watched the stars, knowing that humanity's journey through the universe was guided not just by technology or skill, but by heart, courage, and connection. They were explorers, survivors, and most importantly, humans, capable of love, bravery, and the extraordinary. The galaxy stretched endlessly before them, full of unknown challenges, dangers, and discoveries. But with trust and connection as their guide, Eli and Lyra knew they could face anything, together. And in that moment, under the glow of distant suns and twin moons, the quiet acceptance that had begun as a joke became the greatest truth of all. Humanity thrives not by chance, but by choice, through courage, compassion, and connection.